Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Ashish Sharma. Today, we will see control towards cloud security. And I am assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, RA Institute of Engineering Technology and Management. So, let's we start with the cloud towards that control and its security. Very first is control to look for with cloud security providers. There are certain points over there. First is the application security, whether this application is mobile application or desktop application. Security is very important, along with the risk management is also very important. Then is data integrity and security, that any kind of modification should not take place when we talk about the integrity and security. Next is audit assurance and compliance. It is very important for measurements of quality services and its assurance. And second is audit is mechanism, you can say it's a monitoring which is weekly or monthly or 6 months in a year, that is twice in a year. So it is very important audit and control. And next is that information system regularity, that mapping. So all in that information system, which is important for processing of information on various departments of an organization, which is also a key concern. Next is business continuity. So definitely we should have that business plan, so that to run that business continuity plan nowadays that happens, that once that is peak hours or that is off hours. So definitely we should have that plans that uh, we may work with the limited resources, even though that is the business continuity plan is also a measure control over there. Next is the management planning, and the testing is always there. Again, with the equipment maintenance, impact analysis is definitely if there is a risk, and if suppose something which is unauthorized happen, then definitely what sort of impact analysis of that and make policies according to that. That is also important. Next is the customer access requirement. Definitely, what sort of requirement towards the end user, because end of the day, for any cloud provider and for a company, definitely customers are the major source of income. So we have to look for that customer access requirements. Next is the new development and acquisition. If some trends and technologies are going to be upgrade, so definitely looking in that direction also. Along with this, that when we talk about that concept, there is a data security and information lifecycle which is important to deploy, along with the data center security, because of bulk amount of data is going to be stored there and processing towards the destination. So this is very much there, that the security of the data center, even though from the natural that disasters as well, data centers should remain safe. And next is that encryption and key management. We have that cryptography analysis over there. Then the governance and risk management concept. This is also a key concern and a control towards the cloud service provider as well as for the clients as well. Identity and access management, along with the infrastructure and virtualization security, because when we talk about the cloud computing, definitely virtualization is a key concept for um, optimizing the cost of the resources. Next is the security incident management, e-discovery and cloud forensic, and threats and vulnerability management. So all these controls are very important for the customers as well as for the cloud service provider and the federation of clouds. Come to the next point. Now, why is SOC, that type 2 report, important to evaluate cloud providers? This is that certification, generally we say, that is you can say that security and confidentiality, privacy, availability, and processing integrity. So it is generally following that CIA type of thing, as well as along with the security. So SOC certification, which is the type 2 SOC2 report, will allow that type of controls like access control, two-factor authentication, encryption. When we talk about the privacy, when we talk about the security, there is a network and application firewall. So there is a structure of security which is multi-level structure. Next is intrusion detection, along with that intrusion detection, and we may say about that performance monitoring and disaster recovery, along with that security incident handling. Next is when we talk about the processing integrity, there is a quality assurance, processing monitoring, And in the confidentiality, there is concept of encryption mechanism and access control, network applications, and firewalls. So when do we talk about that the controls that first that we have a security. So unauthorized access to the systems, both physical and logical, is prevented through the controls. So security along with the risk management is very, very important when we talk about the controls towards that cloud deployment. Second is the confidentiality. Sensitive information which is labeled as confidential is protected with adequate controls that customer data and system would likely that fall into this category. So this is also important. Next is the privacy, that the personal information is collected and managed in according with AICPA generally that accepted private privacy principles. So privacy is important, that which data is not sensitive, so we should not allow that for the public domain. This is only for the authentic person or authorized person. Next is that availability. Systems are designed with uptime and availability in mind, and continuity of system operations is maintained. So this is also crucial. Processing integrity. All system processing activities are accurate, authorized, complete, and authorized. So this is also this is the control which under the SOC2 that certification. Now the next is this is the cyclic that process we have, that identifying and mapping the attack surface, break the system based on function design and technologies. Second is measuring and assessing the attack surface, that identify the high risk areas. And third is managing the attack surface, what has changed, what are you doing different, and what holes could have you opened. So this is that all about that risk management, that mechanism. Now the common cyber attacks that reducing the impact, if we talk about that, most cyber attacks are composed of 4 stages. First is survey and delivery, breach, and that affect. The following security controls applied at each stage of an attack can reduce your organization's exposure to a successful cyber attack. So survey, delivery, breach, and affect. These are the 4 that you can say that that cyber attacks are composed of these 4 stages: survey, delivery, breach, and affects. So the main steps that we can follow for the security controls, like to reduce that effects of that cyber attacks, or to minimize that concept, or to eliminate this from the system. User education is very, very important. Second is network perimeter defenses, malware protection, password policies, secure configuration, device control, user training, monitoring, user access, secure configuration, patch management, control for that the affect stage. So these all points are divided as per these 4 stages of that cyber attacks might composed of, and through this we can just reduce the impact of that in our organization. Now this is the cyber risk index, elevated risk that we generally have. This is the data risk and cyber attacks, and infrastructure risk and human capital risk, as well as operational risk. So when we talk about the data risk, the IT security function is unable to detect 0 days attacks, top data types at risk, R&D information. This is all about the data risk. So customer accounts, trade secrets, and confidential company data. These all belongs to the data risk. Now next is the cyber risk. The top cyber threats reported: phishing and social engineering, generally that is through email, then click, that checking, ransomware, which attacks on that hardwares and that systems, botnets, which is the chat-based systems, might possible that attack on that, SQL and code injection that makes that database inconsistent. So this is very, very dangerous, that SQL injection. When we talk about this is the cyber risk. Next is the infrastructure risk. So infrastructure risk, that the top security risk within IT infrastructure is negligence insiders. So insiders might be a threat for a company or organization, malicious insiders, IoT devices and apps, that mobile devices, and DNS server environment. Its challenges with the appropriate use of disruptive technologies like mobile and social media, IoT devices in the workplace. So might be a kind of risk it might face in infrastructure risk category. Now the next is the human capital risk. Lack of spending on recruiting and retaining security IT personnel. So lack of expertise in the organization might face that human capital risk. Lack of spending on educating and employees about the security requirement. So educating the employees, the awareness programs are lacking in the company or organization among the employees. This is definitely a kind of risk under the category of human capital risk. The next one is the operational risk. So loss of revenue, disruption of the infrastructure, and the loss of intellectual properties. Organizational lack of interoperability, scalability, agility within the IT security architecture, which comes under this. So these are different examples of type of risk in the cyber risk index, which is elevated risk. So this is from here. Thank you so much being with us for this session. We have seen the major controls towards the cloud security. Thank you.